What's going on, everyone? My name's Tenebris, and 0.3 has arrived here in Nightingale. Hot on the heels of the last big update, this update is aiming to add a bunch of community-requested features, from the highly anticipated offline mode, to skipping the tutorial and new game loadouts and body types to choose from, then the unexpected event, a spark of hope, to give us even more reasons to jump into Nightingale right now. This update is looking incredibly good here. Today, we'll go through the patch notes, going over all the changes listed, then later on today, we'll have more videos covering this update with first impressions, new missions, and more. So now, let's dive into these patch notes. So the patch notes start with the highlights here, firstly being offline mode, then building from storage, skipping the tutorial, a spark of hope, the new community event, the new bound, which is the marksman, new NPCs, Joan of Arc, Edgar Allan Poe, and Taliesin the Bard, new player character loadouts and body types when starting a new game, editing existing player characters from the main menu, and then the introduction of soft and hard caps on crafting. So let's start off with the game changes and then get to the bug fixes. Firstly, with the art and visual department, visual changes to tree felling animations, an extended range for the torchlight, an updated block icon for blocking as in the skill, and then changes to grenade tier 1 and 2 visual effects. Then for audio and sound effects, they added sound effects to additional tick box toggles. They added sound effects for double-clicking on the Realm card machine. There's new sound effects for spells when tools are charged with new alternative actions from 0.2, for example, the sickle throw. They applied cooldowns on weapon audio effects when there are multiple triggers in a short time span. They suppressed audio when creatures impact with other creatures of the same type accidentally. Changed to medium creature impact sounds, and then they added foliage Foley sounds. I really love the fact that they've added new sound effects for spells that are doing the shockerang and the flamerang here in the game. That's really cool, and I'm excited for that to kind of amplify the Magic gameplay here. Then for building, you can enable building from storage on storage containers to use its contents on nearby blueprints, and crafting from storage ranges has been increased, which that's awesome. That just makes the system a little bit more freeform. For NPCs, there's the new Essence Trader in Abeyance Realms for the Spark of Hope event. There's the new quest NPCs being Edgar Allan Poe, Joan of Arc, and Taliesin the Bard. They've added voiceover for Aurelio and adjustments for Aurelio's questline, which is great to see. Nelly has additional lore dialogue if some codex entries are unlocked. There's minor adjustments to NPC dialogue. The new bound unit is the marksman, and there are new bound variants being the bound sunderer and the bound caprine. There's new area of effect visual effects for bound Darkweaver's knockback ability. There's new tiered variants of Apex creatures being Eotans, Swamp Giants, and Bound that drop higher quality items. And Wisps can now be interacted with in the realms. For the player character, there's new player outfits, body types, and professions now available in the character creator. Players can now edit existing character visuals in the character select menu. Players can skip the tutorial by selecting a start point under the character creator difficulty section. There's been various balance changes to the tutorial quest flow. A balance pass on fishing, which is great to see. In 0.2.1 fishing got kind of broken, so it's good to see some fixes on that here. And then they changed the shove animation. For resources, there are changes to tree felling behavior. They will now always fall away from the player, which is nice, a lot more safe. Mushrooms now yield mushrooms when removed from tree trunks. Oh, that's cool, because it used to be just plant fiber. Awesome. And then they lowered resource requirements and or crafting time for various tier 1 to tier 3 items. For the user interface and user experience, recruited NPCs now have a radial menu for quick behavior commands. Recruited NPC menus now show their name rather than survivor. They changed the map UI for a larger map size. Reset Portal and Reset Realm have additional confirmations and warn the players of the effects of the actions. There's changes to tooltips and inspect subscreens. Characteristics and tier can now be viewed on tooltips. Extraction info, infusion details, and tool and clothing descriptions have been moved to the item inspection subscreen. There are tiers for crafted items that can now be viewed in the guidebook. Benches display tiers in the default UI when players are nearby, and various UX and UI adjustments. Then for weapons, and this one's got me stoked. There's the ornate blunderbuss recipe, which can now be unlocked in the watch. And then they also added tier 3 and 4 throwing knives and grenades to the game, which that's great to see. I'm curious to see how powerful grenades are going to be at tier 4. Items now have a soft cap on stats that will see diminishing returns on stats added to the item, and eventually hit a hard cap on the stat. And new track magic available in Swamp Astrolab realms. So I guess maybe that will be a new enchantment that we can apply to our weapons. And then lastly here for the changes in the miscellaneous section, new point of interest encounters have been added. There's new hunt codex entries. They capped loading screens to 60 FPS and set the default frame cap to 120 FPS rather than infinite, but it can be changed in the settings to be uncapped, and then various performance improvements. And now for bug fixes. In the art and visual department, mushrooms and ivy should now disappear when an NPC fells a tree that they're attached to. There are various animation polishes and bug improvements. And then grenades now inherit gem glass appearance, which that's interesting because they didn't use gems in the first place. Then for audio and sound effects, the knife and sickle positional audio has been adjusted in first person, and for building, estate foundations should no longer be blocked from being placed when they are too close to uneven ground. For NPCs restored from persistence will now correctly change visuals when their clothing is changed. Boss summoning mechanisms at sites of power are no longer destructible. Creatures should no longer spawn near estate cairns, and creatures should no longer spawn out of bounds in forest vaults. Next up for the player character, fishing rods above gear score 255 can catch fish again, which that's great to see. Again, all of the fixes to fishing are awesome here. And then players should no longer get duplicate companion NPCs, which it was funny, but it's good to see that one go. And then for the user interface and user experience, they removed the former escape menu from being accessed while downed. For weapons, the blunderbuss secondary attack should now utilize elemental ammo effects. And then for miscellaneous, crafting stations requiring fuel will no longer complete all crafts upon logging back in if they have no fuel. Thank you for your patience and for joining us on this journey, the Nightingale team. So, yet another huge update here for Nightingale. A hefty amount of bug fixes, which so far have seen an incredible job done. The massive addition of offline mode, the new event with new clothing that will be a ton of fun to experiment with, new missions which will reward us with new augmentations and more new clothing, and so much more. The team at Inflexion have really outdone themselves with 0.3 and are making such awesome progress on Nightingale. But I want to know, what are you most excited for in this update? Let me know in the comments down below. But for now, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Until then, peace.